Good morning, faculty, alumni, students, parents, and special guests. Thank you for coming to celebrate the class of 2019's graduation. Today, we will talk about firsts. First are those memorable moments in life when you try something new before it becomes normalized in daily life. We begin with first steps and first words, and as we get older, it's our first day of school, and later it will be our first job and buying our first house. So let's raise an imaginary glass and say, here's to many more firsts and many more great memories.
We have experienced many firsts throughout our years at Willow, from our first morning gathering and first harvest soup. Today, we begin a new journey. Our first Willow graduation isn't ending, but it marks a new beginning. Students come to Willow for many different reasons. I was brought here by bugs. When I was still in preschool, my mom took me to a spring fair at Willow. Some second graders had a science exhibit showing various pond life. Up until that time, if I even looked at a stink bug, I'd be frozen with fear. But when they showed me the water striders and other various pond life, I was fascinated. Everyone there was so warm and welcoming that when we left, I turned to my mom and said, I want to go to Willow. Soon, I was walking into kindergarten on my first day of school. I've learned a lot more about bugs and pond life in the last 9 years than a typical student might learn in a lifetime. But that was only a small part of everything I discovered about the world and about myself during my journey at Willow. We created a community in the woods. We soared through a galaxy of papier-mâché planets. We dug up the past as we uncovered Native American artifacts. We collected plant life in our phonology journal, and we traveled along the ancient Silk Road, all without leaving our campus. We were encouraged to follow the paths of our imaginations, building forts that we turned into shops and houses, and imagining we were animals and magical creatures. It seems like yesterday I was pretending to be a mermaid in the woods, my tail sparkling and glittering in the golden sun. I truly believed I was a mermaid, because at Willow, you can be anything you want. Throughout it all, Willow has been my guide and has taught me life lessons that will stick with me throughout my life. I've learned the importance of sticking up for what you believe in, thinking outside the box, and not being afraid to stand out from the crowd. I've discovered the value of living a virtuous life, treating the world and ourselves with compassion and respect. During the past 9 years, I've made some of my best memories and built some of my greatest relationships, and I will be taking them all with me on my journey. So yes, it was the bugs that brought me here, but it was the friendships I formed, the memories I made, and the teachers that had such an impact on my life that kept me here. And as for the bugs, it turns out it was just a phase. I'm still scared of them.
Author Nicholas Sparks once said, "The first time you fall in love, it changes you forever. And no matter how hard you try, that feeling just never goes away." My first day at Willow left the same impression on me. I saw education in a new, invigorating way, and that excitement towards my academics has never gone away. So now, I would like you to close your eyes and imagine the beginning of a new school year. You're entering a building for the first time, trying to process the emotions of understanding something unfamiliar. You'd be lost, right? But at Willow, I walked into the lower school and was greeted with enthusiasm. The community welcomed and included me, much different from my prior school experiences. Willow was the first place I connected happiness with learning. During my first morning gathering, I listened to the speaker, and I even laughed at a couple parts. And at the end, I scrambled to learn the tree song. And as the words, "I saw a tree by the riverside," came out of my mouth, I was overcome by a strange sensation I hadn't expected. It was a comfortable, calm feeling of smelling freshly baked cookies, of hugging a grandparent, of getting into bed after a long day. And on that first day at Willow, I knew it was the place for me. This morning, I woke up with the same anxious sensation of my first day here. I mean, who am I kidding? Leaving one school for another will be challenging. But today, instead of crying and ruining my makeup, I realized how much I've grown since my first day here. I look back at my learning experiences, falling in the stream several times, building forts, playing Foursquare, creating the Silk Road Journal in seventh grade. Because of the friendships I have with my classmates and teachers, and the way the Willow community embraces me, I am ready for my first day of high school. To another era first, yet I will always hold Willow close to my heart.
The one first that stands out the most to me is the first imaginative outdoor game I played here. It was kindergarten, and we were on the swings. Each day we went on the swings, but that day was different. The recess started out normal enough. Our teachers gave us starting pushes, and we swung back and forth for a few minutes peacefully, laughing and talking. But suddenly, we were above burning hot lava. We laughed at the terror. We had to escape, but then a bear was chasing us. We had so much fun that we continued playing the game for the following recesses. After a few months of playing games on the swings, we first ventured into the woods. The maze of trees and prickers were confusing and unfamiliar, although now I could make my way through the woods with my eyes closed. When we reached the back, near the parking lot, I felt accomplished and not so lost. I knew that our mission was a success when, along the back fence, a second grader told us that the macaroni monster was going to eat us because we were too young to be that far in the woods. As time went on, we started playing new games, including Sock Factory and Fairies. And since we were at Willow, some of these games soon took on environmental aspects. My friend and I founded the Tree Company. We planted trees and then sold them to people. Of course, all we did was put sticks in the ground, poke leaves on top, and carve people's names into the dirt. While these games seemed to be only mindless play at the time, now I see that they have shaped me to be confident, creative, and curious. I've had many first experiences at Willow, and I have truly enjoyed my time here. I hope I will get to experience many more amazing firsts in the future.
During Math Nation one day in 6th grade, my friend and I sat on the floor of the math classroom, calculating the circumference of a circle. I needed to record my answers, but I couldn't find my pencil case. Luckily, I looked outside and saw my pencil case in the grass, just outside the math room. I must have left it outside during science. As I opened the back door to get the case, a colony of ants marched into the room, 2 by 2. Laughing with my friend at the intrusion, I closed the door quickly. The ants outside were stopped, but the ants inside scurried all over the room. We tried to catch as many as we could to put them back outside, but when we opened the door, more ants came in. They might have wanted the leftover pie from Pie Day, when we celebrated by eating pumpkin pie and apple pie. That year, as I studied math, I began to feel more confident. I paid attention in class, attended Math Nation, and made sure my homework was done thoroughly. This was the first year I was doing well in the subject. At Math Nation, we all helped each other understand math concepts, and we also got to know each other better and really had some fun while learning. And as a result, I earned a 91 on my first math test. I was so proud of myself. It was the first time I achieved something because I was motivated. Willow and all the relationships that I've built here made me a more confident student and prepared me well for high school.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live Oh, wait, wrong speech. Here we go. The stream in the backwoods gurgled below as I balanced on a fallen tree trunk. Through the leaves above, sunlight dappled down on that May afternoon of my 6th grade year. I was so engrossed in the birds chirping, the buzzing of insects, and the rustling of wind through the leaves that I forgot what I was supposed to be doing. The Green Team Committee was building a path through the woods around the stream. I stepped towards the stream's edge to get back to business. Suddenly, I heard a harsh, loud rattling noise above me. Craning my neck upwards, I spotted a pileated woodpecker. The bird I'd been searching for over a year. I swung my head, trying to follow the rare bird. I pointed upwards. I tried to follow it, but instead, I wobbled on that slippery log and then fell over backwards into the stream. Everyone turned to look. I heard gasps and a giggle or two. I felt hot with embarrassment. Surely I would be teased, even ridiculed, for my accident. But instead of laughing, my classmates ran to the water's edge and extended their hands to help me out of the stream. Soaking wet and covered in mud, I trudged back to the HWNC, dripping water along the way while everyone walked along with me. My mom had to pick me up early, and on the way back home, I remembered that when I was falling into the stream, I was laughing. This experience was the first happy one I've had in school since I could remember. At Willow, we're accepted for who we are and made to feel comfortable and respected. And this acceptance occurred each day, from the very first visit day at Willow, when a teacher invited me to teach the class about India. I'm sad to leave, but I'll always hold the many firsts I've had at Willow in my heart. On that note, I'd like to say, beam me up, Scotty.
I come from Newark, the most populated city in New Jersey. Where I live in the city, rows of homes with parked cars line the streets instead of trees. My street isn't very green, and there are no woods in sight. And once I entered Willow, the greenery caught me by surprise. It took me a while to adjust to the pace and feel of being in such a relaxing environment. One day during recess, my friends and I noticed some trees that were bent, forming a natural fort that we can go inside. We called it the base, and from there the game began. First, we took control of the back corner of the woods. Then 8th graders attacked us, stealing some sticks and taking some of us prisoners, but yet our society grew. As the fall fell into winter, we found sticks that had magical powers. We organized Lookout Station in different trees and gave each other code names like Chewbacca and Han Solo. Most of the 6th and 7th grade boys joined our fort, which sparked stronger friendships. Once, when one of the 8th graders tried to take our sticks, several 6th graders jumped in to protect a fellow comrade. We called out for the others in the woods, and they came running to help. The 8th grader tried throwing us off him, but we gripped onto him, refusing to let go until he surrendered. Soon, several 6th grade boys were hanging from him, and we all started laughing. Willow allowed our imaginations to flow, and a major reason for that flow of creativity lies in the nature that surrounds us. Everywhere I look, I see green and feel welcome. I'm thankful for coming to Willow because the school has made me realize that place is just as important as content when it comes to developing a person. I've broadened my horizons because of Willow. The school has and made me view my relationship between friends and education in a different way than I ever could.
What I am most thankful for about the time I've spent at Willow is that I found the first friends I can be myself around. We have been closer than ever in the last 3 years, and I am so grateful that Willow allows us to do what we'd like to keep ourselves entertained. We make up all sorts of random activities to keep us entertained and to keep school fun, and I'm fortunate that the school actually lets us have good times together. Throughout the years, we've taken on many unique firsts because Willow fosters friendship. And one of my favorites was when we adopted a ladybug. We found a ladybug in the barn and decided to adopt it. We named it Bill. Throughout the day, we kept it in a jar, researching how to take care of ladybugs. At recess, we assembled a pen with water and sticks to keep Bill happy, and we even found a friend for him, Bill Ed. We were completely prepared to take care of them, but through research, we discovered these were not ladybugs at all, but they were lady beetles. Lady beetles have been described as the evil twin of the ladybug. They're invasive, and during the winter, they congregate inside, whereas regular ladybugs stay outside. At the end of the day, we knew exactly what we had to do. We threw the ladybugs into the harsh, cold winter. That day extracted a heavy toll as we had to make a hard collective decision. This is just one example of the fun we've had throughout the years. In other environments, I don't feel I would be able to try things like adopting a lady beetle. So I am thankful, most of all, for Willow's acceptance of children who want to be themselves.
Before I came to Willow, I hated school. Every day, I returned to my parents, begging them to let me stay home. School was simply not enjoyable for me, and my family was at a loss as to what to do about my education. My parents decided to homeschool me for my 5th and 6th grade years. But after those 2 years, my parents and I knew it was time to find a more formal learning environment. We took a tour of Willow, and I realized it was more than just a school. It was a community where everyone was interested in me doing the best I could. That tour was the first time I realized that there were teachers who really cared for their students. From the first day at Willow, I began to grow and take more chances. I didn't know anybody, and I was nervous. But my teachers kept working with me, and my classmates were actually interested in what I had to say. It didn't take long for me to start branching out into the community and feeling comfortable at Willow. For the first time, I joined extracurricular activities and wanted to stay at school: fencing, math nation, movie nights, and other grade-related activities. In the yearbook committee, we were pushed to work hard and to create a professional yearbook, but our teacher was supportive. She helped us by giving us suggestions and solving our problems. I was free to be creative and design my own page without strict guidelines. This allowed me to expand my abilities and develop confidence with graphic design. Thanks to this approach to learning at Willow, I've enjoyed being in school and taking pleasure and pride in my classes. And although I have only been here for 2 years, my time here has been filled with positive experiences. The Willow pace allowed me to develop myself more confidently, and I'm now ready and eager to take on the challenges and opportunities high school has to offer. I'm really going to miss Willow, and I will always look back fondly on the happy memories I've made here.
Many of my classmates have mentioned their firsts at Willow. My personal experience might seem trivial or unimportant to some, but the littlest things mean the most in the mind of a child. We were in 5th grade, the kings and queens of lower school. It was winter, and a snowstorm had hit a couple of days before, covering the whole campus. While we were all disappointed that we did not get a snow day, we could still make the most of the beautiful snow. It was hard for us to sit still in class when our entire focus was on the pristine blanket of white outside, but we did our best to remain calm. Finally, it was time for recess. The entire class stampeded toward the door, and we made it outside in record time. Obviously, there was only one thing to do. We started rolling huge snowballs. Although at first we had planned on making snowmen, someone instead suggested that we push the giant rolls of fluffy whiteness together. What had first been kids fooling around turned into a serious 5th grade project. For several days, we returned to the snow fort. As we were in 5th grade, we had been learning about ancient civilizations. Now, we had made our own little community. We constructed small snow statues and made snow art and created names for everything. This was the first time that we had intentionally brought in so much of our in-classroom learning into our free time. Something as seemingly inconsequential as a week of snow fort building made us recognize that the information we learn in our class is in our lives every day. Knowing this, in turn, makes each and every one of us a more active and engaged learner in class and gives us something special that is unique only to Willow.
Frustrated that I could not mold the clay into the shape I wanted, I stared at it, frozen, unable to decide what to do next. Though I was almost finished with my early human skull, I wanted it to be perfect. This skull was the first major art project that I had made at Willow. As my first art project, I really needed it to be this extravagant thing that turned heads and widened eyes. I sighed before squeezing the clay in my hands. It began to take the shape of a small pebble. I flattened the sides and continued to work the clay until it began to look more like an eye than a marble. I held it up to my skull's eye socket to make sure it was the right size. It was. I could have screamed in excitement. It was a perfect fit. I molded the rest of my clay circles into the iris and the pupil before gluing them into layers in a way that made them look like an eye. Taking the glue gun once again, I squeezed out a dollop of glue and secured the eye into its socket. My skull was finally complete. After days of hard work, I had created a work of art with which I was satisfied. I remember being so proud of what I had accomplished. I felt invincible. The skull project taught me how to be creative and to go outside of my comfort zone. I also learned the value of patience and persistence. This project was the first time I really had to be imaginative and to put my unique twist on the guidelines that were given. I also tried new ways of creating art. I used the glue gun for the first time, as well as learned how to create something new from a lump of clay, thinking about it in steps rather than just trying to create with no plan. I even stayed after school a few times because I was so into this project. This project awakened traits in me that have helped me throughout the years. I learned to manage my time early on, which has helped me on other projects. I will always remember the skills and confidence I developed and the memories of how I acquired them.
Almost all of my firsts have been at Willow, because honestly, I've been here for longer than I can remember. I have formed my first friendships and connected with teachers and experienced traditions. I've literally grown with Willow, not only because of my many first experiences, but because those initial experiences produced a more self-confident me. My first real memory is of kindergarten. We were learning numbers up to 10. The 8 of us sat in a small circle on the thin, pale green rug. We looked up at our teacher and then back at the little whiteboards held in our tiny hands. She slowly drew the numbers on her whiteboard. Whoa, her handwriting is so neat, I remember thinking. Our teacher told us to put a hat on the 5 and make an X in the 8. She pointed to each number on the caterpillar that wrapped around the edge of the big whiteboard. It was my turn to try. My little shaking hand held the marker in a balled-up fist. I curved the marker around and made straight lines too. I was finally done. I looked at my first letters, my masterpiece, and I thought, what is this? Why does it look like a chicken wrote it? So I practiced writing numbers and letters. I completed my first simple multiplication problems, my first word problems, first area of a shape problems, all the way up to completing my first quadratic formula problems in 8th grade. I still cannot believe that I've been here for 10 years, which in the whole spectrum of life is not that much. But for right now, at 14, 10 years is most of my life. Thank you, Willow, and everyone who has woven themselves into my life. You've shaped me and given me the opportunity for so much in the future. I am truly going to miss this special place.
Change can be hard to overcome, and you never know what to expect in life. But as Professor John Kabat-Zinn says, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. When I first came to Willow, I was so scared. Everything was new, everything. I had come from a little Catholic school with less than 80 students. I had never played in the woods at recess or gone to a stream for science class. And I was coming to Willow in 6th grade, middle school. Just as I began to become ever so slightly comfortable
with this earth-shattering change in my life, I learned that the adventure trip, an overnight camping trip, was quickly approaching. The week before the trip, my mom and I rushed to get everything we thought I might need to fit in. I got a fancy sleeping bag, noon raincoat, a brand new camping backpack, and my bogs, the universal Willow shoe. I bought the rain pants too, but I honestly had no clue why I would want or need those. I headed off on that early fall day, armed and ready for a battle against the elements. But I wasn't ready for the leap of faith, the jump off a giant telephone pole. When the moment arrived for me to climb to the top, I began to shake. I was so determined to reach my goal, but so scared at the same time. When I reached the top, I just stood there, paralyzed with fear. I looked down at the ground, and I felt my stomach begin to churn. Everything looked so tiny, and the shouts of my peers below seemed far away. I wanted to climb down so badly, but something in the back of my mind told me to stay put. Luckily, the 8th grader who introduced herself to me on the first day of school climbed up, held my hand, and we jumped off together. I quickly realized I was surrounded by a group of supportive and amazing people, and I discovered I wouldn't need a single fancy material possession to fit in at the Willow School. These same people have helped me to grow into a more compassionate, outgoing, and aware individual. Thank you, Willow, for an amazing 3 years. And even though I will not walk through these doors every day anymore, I will always live by the compassion and thoughtfulness Willow first shared with me.
I first realized that I am short on my initial visit to Willow. I was 7, staring up at the school's huge entrance doors in front of me. I walked in, shaking, and instantly wanted to leave. I worried that the students would judge me, but everyone was sitting in a friendly, inviting circle. Smiles were everywhere, but all I could think about was their height. These were 2nd graders? They all seemed like giants. As my terror over my height faded, I was determined to find everything wrong with Willow. The problem was, I couldn't find many valid issues. So, soon enough, my real first school day came. I didn't stay fearful for long. The kindness of my classmates convinced me that I could be happy in this new place. Because I wasn't worried about things as insignificant as my height, my confidence strengthened, and I began to enjoy learning. We memorized songs to teach us the steps of long division. There was another song for the states and capitals. At Willow, I discovered nature as I played outside, paying no regard to the mud under my shoes or under my nails. Through the Skull Project, invertebrates, the Island Project, and everything in between, I learned to value my schoolwork and to be diligent. In middle school, the work increased, and I learned time management skills as more was expected from us. And everyone became closer. More projects came. The Silk Road Journal, Body Product Lab, Phenology Journal, friends stuck close by. I learned that we, as a middle school community, are strong as individuals, but even stronger as a whole. We do amazing things when united, but also can cause chaos, with objects as simple as silly bands or a bag of wigs. There have been many firsts for me at Willow, and it's bittersweet knowing that this is a last, and there will be no more firsts for me here. Yet I'm grateful for all Willow has given me, and so, for the last time, thank you.
While there are many firsts in our lives, there are also lasts. These firsts that we have all experienced at Willow have all helped to shape us into the individuals that we are today. Whether we joined the Willow community when we were in kindergarten or when we were in 7th grade, we have still had many amazing firsts. Thank you so much to the Willow community for your continuous support of the 8th grade class. In the words of mechanical engineer and writer Frank Alil, don't let the goodbyes hurt you. Instead, think about the moments we spent together.